So I wanted to go ahead and open up the floor for an experiment. I've seen a lot of folk talk about Gotham Knights combat and have said that what some of these reviewers out here are saying about the game's combat is valid. The game doesn't have a counter system. The combat feels clunky, blah blah blah. So I open the floor and say, if you want, can you please share some of your combat gameplay with me? I'm not trying to knock on anybody. I'm not going to make it public. I just want you to go ahead and share it with me. You can DM me on Twitter. You can pretty much put the YouTube link in the DM and just let me know. It's easy these days to be able to capture about, 30 seconds, a minute, even in the case of the PS5, up to an hour of footage so that I can see how, you're engaging with the game. I think one thing a lot of people don't really understand nor realize is when you're playing Gotham Knights, you got to play Gotham Knights like Gotham Knights. Not like Arkham, not like Spider-Man, not like the other games that you've played out there that you think are going to be comparable, but you have to play a game based on the rules that the game is made with. If you don't like the systems of the game, that's a whole different conversation, but it doesn't mean that you have to conclude that the game is then hence bad because it doesn't give you the quick time counter like you see in the Arkham games. I did another experiment. I did some gameplay where I put my controller on the screen in order to go ahead and emphasize this more. When you're playing the Arkham games, that game is like driving an automatic vehicle. A lot is done for you. Once you hit the counter button, the animation of Batman overpowering the enemy NPCs play to continue to give you this feeling of I'm an apex predator, I'm strong. So it's like driving your car in the sense where you shift your gear and it moves from drive to park to reverse to neutral. But once you start to drive, you realize that once you're in gear, basically the car takes over and continues to shift for you. It upshifts and it downshifts. The Arkham games, in my opinion, are just like that. When you're playing Gotham Knights, it's more like driving a standard vehicle, or as we say in the rest of the world, a manual vehicle, where you have to do all your shifting by yourself. In fact, if you don't know how to drive a standard vehicle, you're going to pretty much not necessarily be able to go far because the car is just going to be giving you issues and giving you cues saying this is the time for you to do this, but you got to step on that clutch, you got to switch your gears. You can upshift, you can downshift depending on the road that you're on or depending on the slope and all kinds of different scenarios. So a lot of folk don't necessarily look at it this way, but in reality, when you do, you will realize that these two games are designed differently. I remember that our boy, Luke Stevens, one of the so-called critics of this game, said something about the game's, the gear, which is just, according to him, stupid and samey. I wonder what the word samey means. Bro, speak English, okay? And he said that we just don't want these items in video games. The funny thing about that entire statement that made me laugh was because there's a game like Diablo that actually does exist. And I was waiting for Diablo 4 to come out so that I can actually laugh in the faces of a lot of these folk who criticize Gotham Knights for having gear systems and having all those different aspects of the game. And it's interesting to see a lot of these reviewers pretty much go ahead and start talking about, oh, Diablo 4 is this, Diablo 4 is that, when in reality, that's pretty much one of the influences of a lot of these games out here that are carrying light versions of these kinds of, systems. Skill Up is one that recommends Diablo 4 but doesn't recommend Gotham Knights. Skill Up played Tom Clancy's The Division 1 and The Division 2, which is a shooter with RPG elements like Gotham Knights, a game that a lot of people in the Tom Clancy universe pretty much looked away from because they could not necessarily drive the manual vehicle of a shooter that had RPG elements where you had to be involved in a different set of paradigms. They wanted a fast shooter, automated. I just point the gun, headshot, I'm done. Rather than saying like a game like the Division 1 and 2, you got to go craft your build, you got to put it together, and then you got to take it out there and you got to test it out to see how good it is. These gameplay paradigms are very interesting to see overall, and I'm laughing because I like the way gamers continue to play favorites, because if the game is a game that they like, you're not going to hear any issues. I mean, I get it. Diablo is an RPG, has deeper RPG progression and, deeper RPG mechanics, yes, but Even the little RPG mechanics that are in Gotham Knights are making people pull their hair, and many don't want to engage with the systems. Imagine if they had actually gone full blown Diablo with Gotham Knights. A lot of these folk would burn the internet down with the way they're behaving and the way that they're acting up. So at the end of the day, it's quite interesting to see all of this. Another concern, in my opinion, that I would say it kind of surprises me, is a lot of folk continue to say things like, well, if you kind of consider a lot of these different aspects. In fact, Diablo influenced the division for the most part. Many of you may or may not know. And so when you think about all of this, somebody was saying, well, you have to play Gotham Knights with these elemental effects. I don't want this elemental effects. I don't want to have to deal with it. Number one, that's not how you play the game. You don't go into a standard car and say, I don't want to shift gears. Go buy an automatic vehicle. But at the end of the day, that's still one side to look at it. You can play Gotham Knights without elemental effects. You can turn the difficulty down, or you can basically spec for crits. In fact, some of the characters, if you've mastered their combat, benefit more from just going full-blown crits, like Batgirl. She's actually quite stronger doing it that way, because that's just, for some reason, her brawler style is able to deal out a lot more damage if you actually play her the right way. So you think about stuff like that. Somebody like Nightwing, because he plays a very evasive acrobatic role, he also benefits from that. Robin doesn't really benefit from a lot of those crits, so elemental effects are kind of his forte. Each individual character is designed so differently to be able to leverage what it is that they all have. Somebody like, say, Red Hood will also benefit from a mixture of both, but it doesn't still box you in. You can basically mix and match the way you play. So I think this is still something that we need to continue to look at. And like I proposed in the beginning of the video, go ahead and share some of your gameplay. Go ahead and, leave links. Let me see where the holes are. And I'm sure if I share, you've seen my gameplay, and I'm sure you know that there are gaping holes. There are things that I could do better. And I'm sure, like, if we start having that conversation and saying, hey, are you doing this very well? Are you making the combat flow? Are you using your time strikes properly in order for you to be able to get and unlock what your character is fully capable of? You'll be able to see that this is a very unique video game, and it provides a lot of fun whenever you're playing the combat. There are things in the combat that, even I, till date, I'm still discovering, because the way the collision systems work are quite interesting, but that's for a whole different video. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience. Peace out.